Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the Liberty Report. Today, my co-host, Daniel McAdams, is with us. Thank you, Tom and Daniel, for being here.
Good morning, Dr. Paul.
Well, good. I want to talk about a subject we have visited with before, and that has to do with whether our government ever participated in torture, which obviously everybody knows about it, but it's a big deal. And a couple years ago, a couple senators got annoyed, Senator Leahy and Feinstein, because they found out the CIA might be tapping their phones. So they asked for an investigation into torture and the whole thing that was going on. And they did get a report, and actually they turned it in. It was essentially finished in December of 2014, but nothing has happened. And now we have a recent article, thank goodness somebody out there is trying to get more information out of Lauren Harper, who's written about this subject, or has an article out and says, the CIA torture report belongs to the public. Well, there's a few people in Washington that doesn't believe in that stuff. It belongs to the criminals who participated in the crimes they committed, and they are not very interested in making this public. You know, it was designed to try to reveal to everybody, you know, what went wrong and what went on and why it was a detriment and why it was against the law, and reveal what was happening. And yet we'll talk about the roadblocks that have been put into place why this has not been reviewed. But some people say, well, they just don't want to reveal what they did in the past. I think there's a little bit of information there that might reveal that they're still doing it, you know, and raising more questions. But anyway, it's been stymied, it's been stopped, you know, by the Justice Department, compelling the Congress not to read and use and see the material that they ordered. They have a congressional report, and now they're not going to be allowed to see it or use it, and they have this technique of trying to avoid the Freedom of Information Act.
Yeah, it's a sneaky thing, and the piece was written by Lauren Harper, as you point out. She's the director of the National Security Archive, which is a nonprofit that uses the Freedom of Information Act extensively to make these kinds of documents available to the American people. They do very good work and very important work, and so she wrote this piece detailing essentially the fight between the Justice Department and the National Archives, the National Archives and Records Administration. And it's sort of a technicality, but it means a lot, which is that if the National Archives has it as a government document, it'll be subject to a FOIA request. Even redacted, it'll be subject to a FOIA. But if the DOJ can avoid that happening, then it won't be subject to FOIA and it'll never be read.
So here we have the Department of Injustice, which I think it is so often, are putting out a dictate that says not only can Congress not read it, but even the reviewing organizations see it. There is some top secret information in there, but even individuals in the CIA and the FBI and the State Department are supposed to review it. The Department of Justice has said they can't even read it. They can't even open the envelope. So here we have one small branch, but very powerful branch of the executive branch taking charge more of the legal system as well as taking charge of the legislative system and saying, Congress, you may order a study and a study of this and a commission report, but if we don't like it, we're going to prevent it from happening. And it to me is a very, very serious thing, and unfortunately we don't have enough articles like this. People aren't talking about it. I mean, it hasn't even come up in this wonderful year of great debate of our presidential candidate. Have they debated this? Just like how hard have we worked to try to call attention to the 9/11 Commission report. The 28 pages have been redacted. So once again, the deep state is in charge here, and there's not enough people who care about it. And then, of course, we have some people that are pretty honest. They're upfront. They don't want to do anything to hinder the ability to torture. They think torture is good. So that is a real problem for our Republicans and a country that pretends that that we live in a free society where we do things wrong, which will always occur. But trying to correct it is another thing. An investigation, balance of power and separation of powers is what the founders tried to give us. But here it is. Once again, it looks like cover-up.
Yeah, it's very disturbing because Congress does have oversight responsibilities, and essentially it's been able to undertake those oversight responsibilities, but then the oversight that they've conducted has no, it disappears, it goes down the memory hole. And so it is a technical way that they're doing this, but as you point out, because there is a lawsuit over what this report will be classified as, whether it's a federal document or a secret document, as you point out, not even individuals with security clearances sufficient to read it. They can't even read it. It just simply disappears in plain sight.
Well, I think the real classic statement in this whole thing comes from somebody that was very much involved in the torture program, Rodriguez, in the CIA, and he obviously had to answer some questions, or he's involved, but his big job is to protect the state and to squelch these kind of things. And when it was brought up to him, they said, well, it looks like we could get some heat. The CIA will get some heat if we don't reveal this report to the public. And his statement was, that may be true, we may get some heat, but it would be nothing like the heat if we released all the videos of the torture procedures that the CIA was involved in. That ought to be enough then right there to indict this whole system, and why the American people should be outraged. And it still, to me, is unbelievable that I can understand the people who are sneaky and authoritarians and endorse these ideas on torture on certain times. But the bold candidates are saying torture is good. We need more of it, and we should execute people like Snowden.
Yeah.
Snowden should be executed for him telling us the truth. What we need are more whistleblowers. And what have we done to our whistleblowers? Kiriakou was sentenced for 2 years, 30 months, and he served 2 years and then probation after this, because he's the only one that really revealed honestly what was going on. And now on a technicality, he's the only one that got punished. Just think of all the laws that were broken, all the immoralities that had been broken, and just think if they tried to measure, how it has contributed to the incentive to establish ISIS. Well, they look at these films, they probably share them around the Islamic world. They radicalize Islamists because look at what the Americans are doing to us. No wonder these people want to silence and keep these things quiet and not let them know. But the American people have a right. But believe me, they're not going to see anything or know anything if they don't demand that we have more open government.
And this opens up another insidious point, which is that I think the government relies on data, opinion polling data, showing that Americans by and large support torture, even after all this. But another article we read this morning by an old friend of mine, Rupert Stone, talks about there's a little bit more to this data than meets the eye, because a lot of it, as we know, has to do with the way they ask the questions. And the ticking time bomb scenario is the way they ask it. If a time bomb was ticking and LA was going to be taken out, would you support using some rough stuff against the guy who knew about it? And of course, you get in 2015, 73% of Republicans said yes, almost half the Democrats. But that really doesn't tell the whole story, because even the CIA says this ticking time bomb scenario is bogus. It never happens.
It's getting the right information to make good judgments, and we face this all the time. Those individuals that do this, they're our competition because they distort and they lie and innuendos. But this is true not only for the issue of torture, but for war too, because they use the same technique. First thing they have to do is stir up the emotions. It's not logic. Now, you were pointing out some statistic that might reveal a more logical, moral approach to how the people feel about all this. But when the propagandists get involved, the media, and look how I was treated by a major media company when I was talking about privacy and all. So the media is in collusion with big government and the individuals who justify this. But they use the technique of saying to the people, we're being attacked, being attacked, whether it's for war or we're being attacked by ISIS. And this gets to be such a stretch. And then if you don't say, oh, okay, that's right, we're being attacked, sacrifice your liberty. And they say, if you don't, you're unpatriotic, you're un-American. And then they say, if you don't do it, then you will cause grave danger to our country. And so they do that whether we need to go to war against Saddam Hussein or we need to go to war against Assad, all in the name of national security. I mean, they lie through their teeth.
Yeah.
And it's just so tragic that people buy into this and they listen to the demagoguery about this and say, oh, under these circumstances. But if you ask them, well, if you have a pretty good idea that you think somebody in this group of 100 people might have some information, one of them might have been associated with so-and-so, they would say, well, let's get them. Well, what if you have to torture all 100 before you find, oh, that's okay. The cost is worth it. You know, sacrifice liberty, that is a cost. You know, kill 500,000 children in Iraq. That's just a consequence of our bombing and you have to accept that. It's that mental status that rejects the whole notion of morality and an understanding about what life is all about and what a country should be about, and its willingness to give up so much liberty under the emotions of taking care of us and protecting our national security.
And it doesn't matter that the people that have been involved in this business, the interrogators themselves, and we talked to a few of them back when you were on the Hill, they've said that these techniques do not work.
Yeah.
People will confess to anything under torture. Doesn't mean that it's true. This is not the way to do it. That doesn't matter because, as you say, the media hypes it up. But in Rupert, the rest of Rupert's article, he points out, and this is a quote, excuse my rough language, but if you remember, Donald Trump said, yeah, I'll use waterboarding and a hell of a lot worse.
Oh, boy.
And so, but Rupert points out in this article that if you look at other polls and you ask people, well, do you support techniques even stronger than waterboarding, like electrocution and things like this, a heck of a lot worse, 76% said no, that should not be used. Actually, 82% said no, they oppose that. So the stats are not complete when they put it through the scenarios that you're pointing out.
Well, and I've made the statement that in reality, the people prefer peace over war, but they're always talked into war. No, I think it's our natural instinct, and yet the whole written human history has been wars, and people always are justified because of the power of governments to influence the minds of people and influence people. And that is one reason why I come down on the side of small government, so they don't have this much power to influence, because it's the few in government. I think the worst kind of people gravitate into these spots where they have this authority, a psychopathic personality, and to come up with this kind of stuff. And that's why I think the smaller the government, there'll still be mistakes, and when the power is disseminated, there'll still be mistakes. But now if you have a smaller government making these horrendous mistakes, and then it's almost they just get horrified when I bring up the subject about looking for motives. This morning there was something in the news about some people being killed, and I saw them talking about, we think we know who did it, but we have to get the motive. We have to get the motive. But they will not touch this whole idea of finding a motive, and I think these videos provide a lot of motives for what's going on here.
And it emphasizes our point on non-interventionism. As you've always said, they came over here because we were over there. If we'd stop going over there, they'd stop coming over here.
Well, that's something, it seems like it's so clear and simple and practical and moral that why more people don't accept it. But it's the fear. It's the fear. People get fearful. Today people are fearful about the economy. So they're looking toward, even a large number looking towards socialism. Socialism gives them reassurance that the fear that they have, they never ask the question, who and what ideas cause the economic crisis that we face. In the same way around the world, are we really threatened? Is our national security threatened by Assad and Saddam Hussein and these others that we've been so much involved in? And yet the propaganda is very, very strong, very, very thorough, and convinces the people they have to build the fear, instead of starting with the simple fact that the real purpose of government should be to protect our liberties, not to take care of us from cradle to grave, not to redistribute wealth, and not to tell people how to live, and not to snoop on people. The government is supposed to be there to protect our privacy. And when the governments and when individuals try to protect themselves and they make the use of encryption to do this, they become, notoriously the evildoers, and they don't care about national security. So we need to sort this out, but we cannot sort it out with the size of government we have. We have too many people there. We can't re-educate them. They're not educatable. And what we need to do is change the minds of a whole generation on what the role of government ought to be and why liberty is important, why it's a moral issue, and why it's an economic issue, and it doesn't have anything to do with the fact that we have this obligation to be the policeman of the world, and an obligation to make the people better people, and an obligation that we know how to run the economy and we know how to tell people to spend their money. That is not a complicated matter. It can be found in the principles that were given to us by our founders and written to the best of their ability in our Constitution. But we need a revival in this country of a love for liberty, and not a careless notion that they should be dependent and become more dependent on government. The sooner that happens, the better for all of us. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today, and please come back soon.